Hello, everyone, and welcome to Adobe Live. My name is Anna McNaught, and I will be the host today. And today I am joined by Renee Robyn. Renee, welcome to our stream. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm so excited because your work is absolutely incredible. And for those of you that don't know Renee, she is an amazing photographer. And today we're going to be doing a little bit of fantasy compositing work, which you all know is my absolute favorite. So I'm super excited because Renee's work is beautiful. So I think you're all going to really enjoy this. Before we get started, though, welcome everyone into the chat. Nice to see you all here. Hey, Sean and Bliss and Frank, nice to have you all. And just a few housekeeping things real quick. Do not forget to start your day every day with the Creative Encore Photoshop Creative Challenge this week, hosted by Sam Peterson every weekday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Be sure to tune in and challenge yourself to a new prompt each day. And if you're watching over on YouTube, come over and join us on behance.net/Adobe Live, and you can join in the chat and ask Renee any questions that you might have along the way, and join us in on some fun. So Renee, without further ado, let's jump into your portfolio, and I'd love to show everyone watching a little bit about your work and get to know you a bit better.
Sure, sounds good. This is my website. It's probably the fastest way to see a bunch of the work that I do. But yeah, my work is largely in the fantasy and like concept character creation category. My interest really is building really interesting. I mean, more than anything, photography is a portal to accessing people for me. I love working with really interesting people who have stories and everything else. And you know, I look at people and I go like, you know, what kind of a character can I make with you today? And that's kind of where a lot of these ideas come from, is, you know, looking at someone and going like, what can we turn you into?
So cool. Oh my God. It's amazing. It's like very much right up my alley. So I'm stoked.
Dude, I love your work so much. You're so good. I'm so excited that you're the host for this. You're just awesome.
Thank you.
But yeah, I mean, this is kind of it. I mean, like I grew up on video games and fantasy novels, so this is kind of the result of it, I suppose. You know, I used to draw. I used to be an illustrator, and then compositing became a thing, and I was like, oh, this is way faster.
Yes, yeah. I wonder if Voodoo Val is watching. I don't know if you know her, but she absolutely loves this stuff, and is an illustrator and creator and makes stuff like this, and she would go crazy for it. So Voodoo Val, if you're watching, if you're going to watch this replay, check out Renee.
I'm going to check out Voodoo Val, because with a name like that, I have to see what's going on.
Yeah, I think you would get along really well.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah. Oh, so cool. I just love your use of model and color and light. It's all incredible.
Thank you so much. I super appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's funny, you know, do you have like a favorite piece of work of your own that you've done over the years?
Yeah. I have a couple.
This one here is my favorite. And I did this years ago. I peaked way young.
Don't you hate that? It's so sad.
Yeah, but this is like one of my favorites, because I mean, this is one of the first pieces I did where people would have like a visceral reaction to it. People who are afraid of heights would look at it and go like, oh God, my stomach just dropped out. And I was like, man, I don't know how to make that happen again.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah, I super like that one. I'm very happy with it. But yeah, I mean, this is the culmination of years of being a total nerd back when it was really uncool to be a nerd.
I know now it's cool to be a nerd, right? Everyone's like, oh, I'm a nerd.
Yeah, I love Game of Thrones and I love anime and it's just like, man, you used to get you. High school sucked if you were into that.
Oh my God, so true. So true.
I'm so glad it's changed. I'm so glad.
I know. Now we can make a career off of being nerds, right?
Right? So. Yeah. Thank you, Universal Ooze.
Yes. Yeah. Well, this is awesome. And I'm very excited to see what you're going to be creating today. Maybe you can give us a little preview or talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, let's pop over into Photoshop here. Actually, I'm going to close this. Do we need this open again, or can I close this?
Yeah, I think you can close it unless people are going to want to see it again.
This is what we're going to try to make today again. I'm very good at never making the same image exactly the same twice. I know some people who are like masters at that, and they can just, remake the exact same thing over and over again with the same stuff. So we're going to make something similar to this using all the same assets, or we're going to try anyways, and I'm going to walk you through how we did it.
Awesome.
Yeah, so this is kind of where we're at. I'm on this warpath right now. I realized that there was like a really big gap in fantasy photography. It's because, in lots of photography, there's representation is getting very equal, but for some reason in fantasy photography, middle-aged women just don't exist. There's like the young and beautiful, and then there's like the old crony type characters, and that's kind of it. And I was just like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. So I started reaching out and asking all the middle-aged women that I knew, and I was like, hey, do you think you'd ever be willing to? And everyone told me no, and everyone was just like, well, I don't really know, and like the lines and that, I don't really look 25. I'm like, that's not the point. I want you because you look the way you look.
Yeah. Wow. That's so interesting. Yeah. I didn't even think about that gap there.
There's a total gap. So like, and the funny thing is like, you go in movies and books and television, like middle-aged women are everywhere, and like it's everywhere, but for some reason fantasy photography, they're completely eliminated. And I was just like, okay, yeah, no, this has to change. So finally, after like a year of looking, I had 2 women say yes to me, and Varden was one of them. And so Varden let me work on her image today for this. So I'm super stoked.
Yeah, that is so great. And what was your inspiration for this piece? Just kind of, go ahead and talk about that.
To be honest, the inspiration was Varden. She brought this dress. It was her own dress. And I didn't realize she has like a live action, like a LARPing background. So she's all into this kind of nerd stuff too. And she works in video games also. So like, she comes from this world. So it was a very smooth fit. And when she showed up with this dress, I was just like, oh my God, you look like Carmina from Castlevania, and I was just like, let's lean into it because this will be awesome.
So cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, so I'm super stoked, but this is where it all started out looking like.
Wow.
So just like shot it in the studio with like all the things everywhere.
Yeah. Oh my God. Can you flip back to the other one just so we can see that before and after real quick? What a difference. Yeah. Very cool.
Thanks. So yeah, we're going to try to remake this today, and hopefully things don't blow up.
I know the feeling.
Yeah. My computer just didn't update last night before bed, and I was like, no, don't do this to me now.
Yep. Oh, it's the worst.
Yeah. But yeah, so I guess if we can just like pop into this thing and we can start.
Yeah, sounds great. Let's do it.
Away on it. Okay. And so go ahead.
Just a quick question for you. Do you have your own studio that you shoot these in, like in your house, or? Okay, cool.
Yeah, I know.
That's awesome.
It's a big commercial space. There's like 4 of us that split the space. So yeah, it's a lifesaver for the type of work that I like to do. So I'm very spoiled.
Yeah, that's really, really awesome. So lucky to have that.
Yeah, very, very happy about it. But yeah, so first things we're going to do is I've got crop here, and I have content aware turned on. So we're just going to see what this does. So I'm sure, anything content aware is like, it could be fine, or it could totally blow up.
Yep.
So we're just going to see where this takes us first. And I have delete crop pixels turned off right now. So let the computer chug away. Okay, so it did pretty good. It definitely fixed up some of the things. So then I'm going to take my marquee tool here, and I'm just going to clean up this little part of some of this here and image edit. If you ever have this process, anybody who uses these programs a lot, I feel like you'll have this like process where oh my goodness, this is in the way. Oh my God. The Zoom app is right in the way of where I need my buttons. Perfect.
Oh, yeah. I know that always happens.
Okay.
Why did it
shrink? The reason why it shrunk is because we're doing this live.
Yep. It always happens when it's live. The whole screen shrinks.
There we go. Okay, go away. Perfect. Okay.
Cool. Yeah.
Success. Alrighty. So what content aware does. So if you ever have a process where like you do the thing all the time, but you always start the process wrong, because I always go to, when I do content aware, I always click image first, even though content aware fill isn't an image and it never has been. It's just like a part of remembering how to do it.
Yeah.
Anyways, so what that does is it just spat out a new layer right on top here. So it just basically, the algorithm and the math inside Adobe is just like, let's try this. And we're gonna try it again here on this side. So some people say like, why don't you just stretch the pixels? You know, it doesn't always work very well. So
yeah, that's something that it's like a hit or miss. Sometimes it's fine, and sometimes you can really tell.
Yeah, sometimes it is not fine.
I know, it's like no. Ferry asked if you sketch your ideas on paper ahead of time.
That is how images always show up looking the best the first time, and sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. So this one, when I was kind of playing around with this yesterday, I just kind of opened up Photoshop and was just like, let's see where the rabbits go. And I just like chased digital rabbits through my hard drives going like, which backdrop do we think? Which this, which that?
Yep. I know that's usually how I end up working too. Like I have a general idea, sometimes a sketch, but end up kind of just being like, oh, let's try this. Let's try this. Let's try this. And that's what takes the most time, right?
Oh my God, it takes forever. That's why I did this last night, because I was looking at it and I was like, this is going to take me 4 hours.
Yeah. Then you spend the whole live stream looking for which image to put in as background,
which is,
right?
Not fair at all. But yeah, so I'm just going to merge. So I just duplicated my background layer here just so that I always have something to compare it to from where I started. And I'm just going to merge these down because I mean, there's no reason to keep them separate. Yeah. But yeah, so that did a pretty good job there. So the next thing that I do with these images is I look at, the things that I want to fix or correct. So in this case here, we have like these gaps in the hair here. And with frequency separation, I can fill that in really quickly. And I know that as soon as I say frequency separation, people on the internet are like, what? Oh my God, you're the worst. It's fine. This is part of the process. And I'm really bad at dodge and burn. But dodging and burning isn't gonna like pull this over into here very nicely. So just gonna quickly do this here, invert, add. And I am gonna work like relatively quickly because there is like a little bit of stuff that we want to do. If you want to know what frequency separation is, there's lots of places to learn.
Yeah, that's a super, super good way of editing. I learned that not that long ago and was like, oh my God, I can't believe this has existed.
Yeah, it definitely saves a lot of time. And I mean, like, because I know I'm going to be switching out the background, to mask this in would just be a nightmare to like get the castle coming through the pieces. I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
Nope. This is not happening. So yeah, basically I just go in here with a clone stamp tool and I just start filling in the texture of the hair. And then I will start pulling in the color after. So, and there's like so many different ways to do frequency separation, even between like 16-bit and 8-bit, but there's just like a bunch of retouchers out there that have totally different techniques on how to work with this. And it's really cool, actually. There's a Russian beauty retoucher and I forget her name right now. And, but she has this like totally different way of working in frequency separation that I'd never even considered before. And I was like, oh man, that's actually like really clever.
Yeah, it's interesting the different ways that people use it.
Right? And like pros and cons to each for sure, but it's still interesting.
Definitely.
Let's fill in this a little bit.
So did she come in with the elf ears on, or is she a real elf?
She looks like a real elf, right? Oh my God.
She does.
Yeah, she's like that perfect whimsical look. It's magic.
Yeah.
But no, those are my elf ears, because when I was talking to her about this, I was like, we could make you a total elf, because like I hadn't seen her, because of course it's been like the end of the world.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen her in person in a while, and then I had tickets to the ballet, and I was like, oh man, like who do I know who would like to come to the ballet? And I was like, oh, I bet you Varden would. And so I sent her a message, and sure enough, she was down, and she showed up with this like super long, because her hair most of the time that I've known her, because I've known her for quite a while, it's always been like relatively short, like not quite this long, but because of course the end of the world, she had her hair was super long, and I was just like, oh my God, please, 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 please.
Wow. Yeah.
Please
So
let me
cool.
photograph you.
She has the perfect look.
Right. It's so good. And so many women do, like, and it's like, you know, short hair looks great too, but like for this kind of character.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so needed for it.
Yeah.
Nor asked, from the moment of idea until the composition is finished, how long does it normally take?
Sometimes years.
I like that answer.
It's true. Yeah. Sometimes it totally takes years. Because I have like so many ideas, and like finding all the pieces to go together. It just sometimes really takes a long time. Like with this one, you know, like I've been trying to find women who would, you know, who are in this age range, who are willing to let me photograph them looking this age. And, you know, it just took forever. And then finally somebody said, yes, Varden. And, you know, all of a sudden everyone's just like, oh yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
So finally, you know, so that's like, yeah, sometimes it's super fast and sometimes it is super, super slow. And I mean, on a good day, you know, especially like if I'm working on a job with an art director or something like that, you know, it goes really quickly, you know, where we're sitting there and like, you know, that jamming, like that creative stuff that just happens when you're sitting there talking to somebody. You know, it like kind of hums along and you're just like, oh yeah, this is great. This is totally awesome. And it's working and it's looking really good. Yeah, basically all over the place. And I hate that answer for you because it feels like a cop-out, but also it's very true.
I think that's the most true answer that anyone could give, because it's so true. I get asked that all the time as well. And I'm like, it totally depends. And you're right. It can take years. And sometimes the best pieces take years.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, like, and then sometimes like they happen so quickly. So that girl jumping off the building was an image that I was literally sleeping on the plane going to Halifax to do a presentation. And and I was asleep on the plane and the idea hit me while I was sleeping. And then I woke up and I was just like, oh my God, I have to do this. And I landed in Halifax and I was like, I need a model like ASAP.
Yeah.
And then we shot it and edited it and I had it out like, you know, I mean, the editing and everything all in probably took me like half a day and just like, pow,
that's amazing.
Finished. Yeah.
Wow. And how did you shoot that one? Because you're like up above her and she's kind of like flying.
Exactly. Yeah. That was what was taking me the longest time to figure out like how to do like the physics of it.
Yeah.
And literally she's just jumping straight up in the air and I'm just standing on the ground because you're just flipping, right?
Oh. Because
you need to be above her. And if you're above her, well, you're just behind her.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was just like, oh my God, she can just jump. Yeah. Because I was trying to think like, do you have them like, do I have her jumping like, you know, over top? Am I up on like a tall ladder or something? Like, how am I doing this? And then I was just like, oh yeah, I can just jump.
I didn't even think of that. And now I'm kind of like piecing it together in my mind. I'm like,
right?
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah. And like the only thing that took like a little bit of work was finding a rooftop image. And if you know who Ben Von Wong is, I just reached out to him and I was like, I know you're rooftopping in Hong Kong right now. Can you please dangle your butt off of the side of a skyscraper for me?
Yes. Oh, so cool.
But yeah, so I'm just doing like quick retouching here. I don't do a ton of retouching. Anybody who follows my work or whatever, like obviously I want to leave the lines in her face and everything like that. I'm just softening. I'm basically making her look how she looks in real life as far as her skin is concerned. Because I don't want to make her look 25 because she's not. She's in her 50s. And I mean, to be fair, I hope I look this good in my 50s because holy damn.
Yeah.
It's kind of unfair.
Yeah, she's beautiful.
Right? But yeah, so anyways, that's basically all I do to the skin. And I mean, there are some people that I retouch or that I photograph who are just like, yep, give me the plastic surgery. And I'm more than happy to do it because it's not my place to judge them. But, you know, in this case here, I was just like, the whole point is that you get to look like you.
Yes.
So one of the things here that I'm doing just quickly is I'm just color grading the ear. I just put it on a color blending mode because of course these ears don't always perfectly match. Although this one's pretty close.
Yeah.
But the other thing that happens with these is the texture is always wrong. So I typically will take texture from like the cheek or something, which isn't the perfect texture, but at least it's not the plastic ear texture, because plastic ear texture is weird. We don't like it. Let's see here. I'm just throwing like some hair over the ears. Which is funny because like I worry about this stuff and like nobody's gonna see it unless it prints big. But every now and then,
someone asks for it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then you're just like, oh no.
Yeah. I know. I feel like that always happens if I decide to make something just like 8x10 for Instagram or whatever. Then someone's like, "Hey, I was wondering if I could get like a 45x30 print of that." And I'm like, "No."
Give me a week. I got to remake it.
I know, exactly. Give me 2 years.
Yeah, exactly. I did some work for a trade show once, like years ago, and I had the company was just like, "Oh, we really want this one." And I was like, "That is not made to look good big. I think that's a very bad idea. I edited it live. Like, I don't think this is the right choice." And they were so insistent because they loved it so much, and I just did not have time to remake it. And they were just like, "Yeah, no, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine." And they printed it, and then I saw it at the trade show, and I was just like, "Oh my God, I'm never doing this again." And I was just like, so like, oh no.
Oh, that is the worst feeling.
Yeah. It's not a great feeling.
Yeah. Oh man.
But it happens to us all.
Yep. So
you know,
true.
it's like, that's like early career mistakes, right? And you just like hope that you get those out of your way, like early career mistakes.
Yeah. And like, you see it somewhere and you're just like, okay, I'm just going to pretend it's not mine. And maybe no one else will notice it's mine. And I'm just going to ignore it. Forever
triggered. Yep. I will remember this for the rest of my life.
Yep, absolutely.
So I figured it'd be fun to like give her these like nice bloody eyes. It's also halfway to Halloween or something like that, so maybe this is suiting.
Oh, is it?
Allegedly. But one of the things that I always like to do when I'm creating like eyes like this is I like to get rid of the eyeball, like the lines and everything. So I will actually take texture from like parts of the skin, which I'm sure there's some character artists out there that are just like, no, but whatever, this is what I do. No one's called me out on it yet. So now that the secret's out.
Hey, it's your art. You can do whatever you want, however you want.
But
hello, Jesus. Welcome in. Nice to see you here. Hope you're doing well.
Yay.
He's the best.
He's totally awesome.
Yeah.
Hi, Jesus. Nice to see you, not see you.
Nice to see you, not see you.
Yeah.
So in doing this to the eyes, does it kind of give it more of like the fantasy, like witchy look, or what's it? Okay.
Totally, yeah. Because it just like, because I mean, the iris is such a human thing.
Yeah.
Right. And so I like to get rid of that. But I'm always mindful to keep my catch lights. So I don't ever get rid of those because obviously it looks weird. But yeah, and then I just go in and kind of start like, again, this is all just with frequency separation. And I kind of just like smooth all this out a little.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, Renee in the chat said, hey, she may be a very young elf. They do live really long. Plus she looks great.
That's a very good point.
I know. Like a very, very young elf.
Yeah, there we go. Now, also remember to name your layers.
Yes.
I forget that constantly, going like, uh-oh, which?
Yep, I am not a layer namer.
Oh my God, yeah, I just like archaeological digs on the on the files, just like, what did I do here? What was this? Just like turning stuff on and off. So don't be us.
Yep. I love that way of describing it. That's perfect.
Okay, so that was on multiply. Let's do a second one and put it on the soft light overlay. Soft light, I like that more.
Yeah, that's really cool. Like, what a great technique. I never thought to blur the irises like that.
Yeah, well, it's just getting rid of like the obvious stuff.
Yeah.
And then obviously one thing that happens when we do this kind of work to the iris is we lose the black, the darks. And so I'll just go onto the high layer and I'll just do a little bit of quick burn tool on the iris itself. But I want to make sure that I haven't colored over these catch lights. So I'm just going in with the eraser tool quickly, making sure that those stay white, because even if her eyes were pure red, catch lights obviously would remain white. Yeah. So let me see here. So we got the ears, we have all the other things. Let me see, what do we want to do next? Probably we're gonna add a moon.
Oh yeah.
Sitting here going like, what do we want to do here? No, I don't want to do that. We want to create a new blank layer. I need you to move. Get out of my way. So
do you, everything that you add into your photos, is it all stuff you've shot, or are you getting some stock too, like for the moon and some backgrounds and stuff?
I mean, so in this case here, I'm gonna call this moon. In this case here, you'll see that I use, there's an app called BorisFX. And I don't know if you're familiar with it yet.
I am not.
Okay, so you're gonna love, as a compositor, you're gonna love this way too much. So it's BorisFX Optics, it's a plugin. And they have a bunch of cool stuff in here that you can do that normally I would have been using stock for, or just having to create, because you can make planets from scratch, like kind of easy by just like creating like a circle and whatever. But they literally have this thing called Luna. And it's literally a moon.
Oh my God, I'm done.
Right? And so, and in the parameters here, you can like change the size, lunar phase.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? This would have been so useful last month. Are you kidding me?
Right? I know, I saw your moon series and I was like, ruh.
Oh my God.
You can change like the color of it. You can change the contrast, brightness, bumpiness, like how like, you know, bumpy or not bumpy you want the moon.
I am shook. I think I need a minute. Oh my God.
Right? Yeah. And this is just like one thing. They also have like stars. So you can change, you can put in. So I can never enter a landscape photography competition because I will just go, instead of standing outside, freezing my butt off. For those of you who are taking shots, that's an example for one. But you can literally like in this have a night sky and it'll do the Milky Way, and you can pick the time of year and which like time, like you can, all of it is completely customizable. So like they actually really figured this out.
I am literally shook right now. Oh my God, this is incredible.
Yeah.
How am I just finding out about this? Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And then, yeah, there's like atmosphere and like all these different things you can do. And oh my God, it's so complicated. Like you can do so much. Hold on, my computer's gonna freeze.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a little processor hungry, but
yeah,
whatever.
Man, so cool. Yeah, Sean asked, what is the price of this?
I don't remember. I was trying it out for a while, and there's like a monthly thing that you can do. I think it's like $9 a month.
Okay.
And
cool.
you can just try it, you know, because you can get the trial obviously, but you can also just do like the $9 a month thing and just like see if you're going to actually use it. And then if you decide like, okay, I've paid for like 3 months or whatever, obviously I'm using it, then just buy the annual.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not like sponsored for them. I don't work for them or anything like that. I mean, I just love this app. It's just real cool.
Oh my God. So awesome. Yeah. I love plugins, and thank you so much for showing us all this. You've changed the game. Like I was searching for every phase of the moon. I was shooting some of them. Like I tend to not like to shoot the moon because I don't have the right equipment for it.
Yeah.
But
it's hard to do, right?
Yeah. And being outside freezing in the middle of the night, like, yeah.
Yeah, we're composite artists for a reason. We get to be soft.
Exactly. I know. Like, I love shooting photos, but I also enjoy sitting at my computer working on the fine little details even more. So, might as well take that.
Yeah. Lean into it a little.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just doing a select subject. Oh, hold on here. I always do. This is another thing that I always do constantly. There we go. I always leave all my layers turned on when I go to do a selection, and I'm like, what's actually selected?
I know, right?
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna invert. Poor computer's just like, yeah. Let me see here. Let me bring you in. Nope, that was the wrong way. Also, I'm super dyslexic, so that's super fun. You know, like 50% chance of getting it right and you do it wrong the first time every time.
Yep.
Well, at least it's consistent. Okay. Alrighty. So now one of the things that I always do is I save my mask way down here. So I always have like a master mask. And there we go. Burp. Oops. Oh my God. Give me the things. There we go. Perfect. Right on. Okay, so that is piece number 1. Now, I think what I'm going to do next is I'm going to pull in this castle thing here. My computer's just like, all right, why are we doing this?
Yeah, like what's happening?
Yeah. So one thing that I always do here with when I'm putting in background pieces like this, I make sure that they're shot with the same compression. So this is obviously zoomed in, so it's nice and compressed. I'm not putting like a wide angle, at least especially for this. It just looks really weird. And so from here, I'm just gonna go open. I also turn down texture and clarity because I'm gonna wind up making it a little bit soft anyways, but I want less information. Cool. Go open. So obviously this is like a little bit janky in the wrong angle and stuff. So we're going to fix that. First, we're going to get rid of technology because that's boring. But with the work that you do you ever find, like, do you dream of your ideas? Because your ideas are advanced. Yeah. I feel like if I just microdosed my life, then I would come up with ideas that you do. But and for those of you who don't know what that is, don't look it up. But like your ideas are so surreal and I love it. And I'm just like, where does it come from?
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Dreams and like spending time in nature, very much kind of like in that surreal, trippy world mindset.
That makes super sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's like, and it's funny because I say this a lot on streams, like the more that I've gotten into my work and have done it, the more these ideas just come naturally. Like it will, I can close my eyes and my mind will start putting pieces together because I like live in this world all the time, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
I'm just doing a little bit of perspective warping here just to match all the things. This is the thing about like when you're working with old buildings, nothing is ever even.
Yep.
Let's see here. Where are we? Oh, that's actually looking pretty good.
Yeah.
Let me see here. I like changing blending modes when I'm trying to fit this stuff in.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, makes everything faster. Alrighty, so we need to get rid of all that white color range. Okay. And then smooth. And this is where I'm like, oh man, which one is it?
Yeah, it's always like just trying things out. That's usually how I remember whatever it was that I did.
Yeah.
I feel like to this day, I still am like, I don't know what exactly I used. It's like all just click, try.
Yeah, exactly. Every single time. Okay, and we're gonna invert that brush.
Nor asked if you've worked or collaborated on any movies in your career.
I have done some in my career, actually. I did some concept art on a couple TV shows, but None of it ever made it to screen because that's the world of concept
art. That's still super cool though.
Yeah, it was nice. It was fun.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that is the wrong size. Let me see here. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind working in film, but I mean, to be honest, I mean, I started out in film. That was a big part of like my earlier career. I don't miss it. I mean, I have a lot of friends who still work in film and they love it, and like film is their entire life, and I love that for them. But it's just the hours are so crazy, just totally bananas. And everything is like super last minute, super rushed, and like you're sitting in a dark room, you know, doing concept art, and it's like you in a black box. And I'm so social.
Yeah.
I'm like annoyingly social, so it's not necessarily like the best match for me.
Yeah, I feel like that would be a lot for sure.
Yeah, I think it's a lot for a lot of people. Let me see. Now, if I want to do this, I'm thinking out loud here.
All part of the process. Good to
Yeah,
see.
exactly. Okay, so the next thing that we're definitely going to need are some highlights, because we're going to need highlights on her hair because we have the moon coming from behind her. We're going to need highlights on this thing here. Let's move our moon, get it a little more central, and clean up that mask. All right, so now from here, I want to make you darker because you are too bright.
Sam said that YouTube is asking, how many years of experience do you have?
Well, I started noodling around in Photoshop in like Photoshop 5 in the 90s, not CS5, but like 5. And it was a totally legitimately purchased copy of Adobe. And then I started into Photoshop 7, but I mean, I got into it for like illustration purposes, not really for like photography, compositing related stuff. That didn't start until I was about 25. So, well, 24, yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, I definitely started like playing with Wacom tablets and Photoshop, you know, in the 90s, around like 97.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm aging myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I was 6 years old.
There it goes. gotta hurt me like that.
I was playing in Photoshop then too, so it's fine.
Well, that's good. Those are the people that I'm always envious of the ones that, you know, and I realize that artists said the same thing about me when I was in the 90s playing with these kinds of things and being like, oh man, you're so lucky to have this so young. And I'm like, yeah, but that was like layers were a new thing. And I'm like, you see what kids have got now? Like, it's so cool. And I just like wish I had access to that when I was younger. Like, that would have just been awesome, you know? Oops.
I know. Although I feel like for all of us kind of growing up in the early days before all of this was available, like I think we benefited from really being able to learn things the hard way and or drawing and using pens and paper and stuff, and like kids nowadays will not know what that's like.
Well, I mean, there's a brand of kid out there that's definitely going to be like, you know, nope, not doing digital. Everything has to be like, that's the one thing that I have learned over the years is that
so true.
There's always a counterculture kid. And I love that those kids exist. Like, if you're one of those counterculture kids, like, hold on to it.
Yes.
Don't listen to the naysayers.
I know. I hope my future children are like that.
Yeah, right. Well, here's the thing is that you're going to have kids and they're just going to be like, because you say that, it'll be the opposite.
Oh God.
No.
I know.
Yeah, that is definitely going to be a thing. So I'm just like quickly going through here on just an overlay layer. I'm just painting highlights in here. How are we doing on time anyways? Because I'm not actually sure.
Yeah, you're good.
We're good? Okay.
Yeah.
Right on. Okay, overlay is not strong enough for this job, so we're going to create a new one. Dodge highlights. And we're going to call this one overlay highlights. Okay, so there we go. That's looking a little better, but obviously it wouldn't be pure white. So we'll pick like a reddish, pinkish color for the dress.
Yeah, so is her dress, I know in the other one it looked red. Is it actually red?
It's like a burgundy, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't tell.
Yeah. Oh, there's definitely some digital color grading that kind of went into it.
Yeah, make it pop.
Yeah, exactly. But let's see here, a little bit on the sleeve. I don't typically like to do this type of lighting in images, but in this case, it actually makes sense because the light source is behind her. There's like, I don't know how many people in here spend a bunch of time in like the digital art forums and stuff like that, but there's like a running joke that, you know, your characters are always rimlit, even though environmentally it makes absolutely no sense.
That is so true. You see that often in the digital space. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I realize why we do it, because I mean, it creates like that point of focus, you know, and we can see the character and we can, you know, all the things. It just points out the importance of this piece and like who they are and where they are in the frame. But it doesn't always make sense. That was one thing that I really appreciated about the Northman, was his use of like really nice environmental lighting. If you haven't seen it yet, it's Viking Hamlet, which is a good time.
What is it?
Viking Hamlet, if you ever read Shakespeare.
Okay.
But it turns out, like, actually, I didn't know this, and somebody pointed out, because I was like poking fun at it a little bit. I mean, I totally enjoyed it, but I was just like, oh my God, this is totally Viking Hamlet. And apparently someone in the comments was like, oh yeah, well, that's because like Shakespeare took the name of the main character and just took the H off the end and put it at the start. And that's how you get the name Hamlet. And I was like, what? Anyway, so it's actually supposed to be Viking Hamlet. And I was like, oh, here I thought I was just being rude. Apparently not.
They're like, nope, gotcha.
Yeah. Okay, I don't want to blow out my moon though.
Sam said he abuses rim light.
Yeah, there's always one.
Yes, Sam's work is absolutely incredible, by the way. Everyone should go check it out.
Sam who?
Sam Peterson. He is our chat moderator.
And, good.
And is doing, or there's a encore of the Photoshop Creative Challenge with him this week.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Absolutely unreal illustrations. Like very much like your work, but
with actual talent.
Hey, you have talent too. Your work is amazing. I think everyone has their own thing, you know?
Yeah. That's what I tell myself to make myself feel better. And then I go browse illustrators. People are like, oh, where do you get your inspiration from? I'm like, I just cry looking at digital illustrators. Like,
I feel you.
So good.
I feel you. I'm like on a challenge right now to really get good at illustrating, and just kind of trying to do it every single day. And then it's like the more I look at people who are good, the more I'm inspired, but also deeply sad.
Deeply sad. Yeah. That's exactly it. There's 100% that line of just like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I'm so inspired, but also I might cry.
Yep. It's like, I'm going to just give up and go watch TV and be sad.
Yeah. There's a box of Oreos with my name on it. I'm just like, oh. Yeah, that's 100% how it is. Yeah. Because I always get people asking, they're just like, oh, like, you know, when, like, what happens when you finally get as good as the work that inspired you? I'm like, no, you never do.
Yeah.
Because like the better you get, the better your taste gets, and the better like the work that inspires you gets. And then so you're just perpetually just like reaching. So like you gotta love treading water if you're gonna do this like full time anyways. Like if you do this, just the purest thing of doing this art is doing it because you love it.
Yeah.
And that's it, right? And that is like the best reason to do any art, is not because it makes you money, but because you enjoy it.
100%.
But
it's so true though. And isn't it funny that like I have a huge folder of things that inspire me. I have it like on Pinterest, I have it in Google Drive, I have it on my phone, like many things over the years. And I look back on the pieces that inspired me like 5 years ago, and I'm like, why was I into that? And it's
Yeah.
true, your tastes change and develop, and it's interesting to see. Yeah, you're always kind of chasing this next level.
Yeah, exactly. Which I feel like is a very human condition kind of thing. Where you're just like, it's never good enough.
Oh, absolutely. No matter in all fields, no matter what it is, whether it's career or life related, it's like, what's the next thing I can achieve? Oh, I'm going to go to the gym 10 times this week instead of 5.
Right.
I don't even go once. So
fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah, exactly. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Okay. I'm going to pull in my favorite cheat. Come on here. Let me think here. Yeah, we can do this. Pardon me. Excuse my nose running. Anyone who's watching, I have a cat and I'm horrifically allergic to her, and I love her, but I'm so allergic to her.
Oh no. So what is this cheat that you're doing here?
So on the topic of cat, here she comes. The feed might die if she steps on my keyboard. Go to the right layer. So this is like my favorite way to add like really nice atmospheric stuff is I just go out and photograph clouds with a long lens. But then I put it onto here, soft light, and then I duplicate that a few times. But I'm also going to copy up this mask. This is why I keep like a master mask. Oh my God, computer. Oh my God, my computer. Perfect.
It's like, yeah, I don't like this.
Yeah. What up, update? How you doing? Super appreciate that last night. But yeah, so I do this a lot just to create like, because I mean, painting, it's one thing, but having the diaphanous texture of clouds for atmospheric stuff is easy.
Yeah, that's
and it's really fast.
And did you color grade it on the raw file?
Yeah. I just like pulled it warm and green, cool and green. The other one. Let's see here. Pop view open. Being like mindful of our time here.
Yeah, you have about an hour.
Perfect, because what I can do is if I finish this quickly, is I can show you what I was originally going to do, which is a little bit easier. It's a little bit more like intro. So for people who are just getting into this, if my computer froze just then, I'm sorry. I think it did. And screen and mask. So atmosphere.
So you made four of them?
So what I do is there's 3 cloud layers all on soft light, and then I grab a snow layer.
Okay.
And I put that onto screen.
Cool.
Yeah, sorry, sweet. I did that a little bit fast.
That's okay.
But yeah, so we're sitting here like that, and let's see, what else do I want to do here? Probably should add some foreground pieces because obviously she's like really looking like she's been stickered on. So let's go here. And this is just like some smoke.
And is this something you shot too?
Yeah, I shot all these elements. So
nice.
Yeah, but I was lurking around on the Adobe stock site because I'm so stuck in the world of like, I remember when buying stock for this kind of stuff was just like really prohibitively expensive. And then, you know, I was like browsing the Adobe stock site and I was like, oh man, there's some cool stuff on here.
Yeah.
And so it's like actually affordable. Yeah.
Yes. And now they have their free section too, which has so much good stuff and so many good like atmospheric elements. I use it all the time.
Yeah, I was really, really, really surprised because I definitely come from like the world of like stock being just so expensive and so difficult to get, and you know, which is why I started doing like my own. And it's just not like that anymore. And I was like, I think I've been holding myself back because I've been not using, you know, I mean, this is the thing that I always tell people is like, whatever resources you have available to you, use them. So if you have the resources of like, you know, you've got a sibling or a parent or whatever who's like down to be in front of your lens whenever you need, like use them. If you happen to be somebody who was like, you know, born into money, then like use it. Like if you're not using the resources available to you, you're wasting your time.
Such good advice.
You know, and then if it happens to be that like, you know, you didn't win those lotteries in life, but you have the, you know, mental capacity of like, I'm going to do this no matter what, then do it no matter what.
Yeah.
But it took me a really long time to really come to terms with that and like what that actually means.
Yeah, totally.
So this is just a soft light layer here, sorry. And I'm just trying to like pick a color here that makes sense.
Okay. Marsha was wondering if you're using a tablet.
I am using I have a Wacom Intuos, and right now I'm using actually the Wacom 1, which is the, it's the one with the screen on it, which is why you see me looking down a bunch.
Oh, nice. I bet that's so helpful. I feel like that's what I would want to get because I can't do the like looking up and moving my hand down below thing.
Yeah. Well, because I mean, I love the Cintiq like a lot, but it's heavy, right? And so because I travel with my equipment, it's a pain in the butt to travel with. So here I'm just doing a box blur just to add a little bit of blur to that smoke, 0.5. But so fine, 1 it is. But anyways, so when I got the Wacom 1, it doesn't color calibrate as nicely, like you can, but it has a smaller color gamut, so it's not totally color accurate like the Cintiq is. However, this thing, it weighs as much as my Intuos, so I can just like chuck it in my bag. It's the same size as the Intuos Medium.
Okay.
And so it just like lives in my backpack when I travel, and like I just take it with me. So, and it's a nice like second monitor, especially if you work on a laptop like I do.
Yeah.
So,
and you can't use that on its own, can you? Does it always have to be connected to a laptop?
It does have to be connected to the laptop. Yeah, that is the one thing about it. So it's not like you know, with the iPad Pro, like you can sidecar it to your Apple system if you run Apple. I don't, so obviously sidecar doesn't work.
Okay.
But you know, I love it. I mean, it's just like, especially because, you know, like what you're trying to do, like trying to get into more digital illustration stuff, it's so nice to just look at the screen, you know, and just like see it right there, you know, coming from an illustration background, even though now I'm a terrible illustrator these days.
Yeah, it is so nice being able to look at the screen like that. I have my my laptop and my iPad synced up, so I use my iPad sometimes like a tablet, but I tend to end up just using my mouse most of the time.
Your mouse?
I know everyone's like, what? Really? Or my trackpad, not even a mouse. I use that when I'm compositing, but then as soon as I get into the painting details, that's when I use my iPad. Like
Wacom, we gotta get this girl a tablet.
I know,
dude.
I know, partnership.
What? How?
I know, it's bad. Everyone's like, what?
Oh my God, you poor thing.
Yeah. Like syncing up the iPad has been okay because at least I can then use my Apple Pencil and everything, but I feel like
that's fair.
Having a tablet would be nice.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. So what I did here was I just merged everything up into a single layer, and I just popped into Adobe Camera Raw, which is where I do most of my color grading these days. Actually, one step first, make this a smart object.
Yes, good pro tip there.
Yeah, smart objects are great if you have to resize a bunch of stuff or if you're going to go in and out of Adobe Camera Raw. Make it a smart object. And my computer is just like, oh, why? This is how we burn through laptops every couple of years. So obviously here we have like all of our adjustments and everything, but what I've done over the years is I made like a huge pile of like color presets, and I just like, whenever I make one, I just save it. So this was the one that I made yesterday, but I'm going to walk you through how I made it.
Cool.
So this is like ish. But I started out with this one because I had made it for like a completely different shoot. Obviously the clarity is the completely wrong direction. Let's see here. Bring you down a little bit, bring you down a little bit. Keeping her nice and pale. Because undead stuff. Let's see here. Turn this down a little bit. And people always say like, oh, what do you do with your color grading? Like, I push sliders till I think it sucks less.
Yes.
Which is very much so my process.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. Let's see here. So I just went into my detail and I just turned up the color noise reduction a little bit. But I am looking at this and her dress is looking like a little bit dark. So what I might do, cancel. Yes. What I might do instead is delete this. And this is definitely part of my process where I'm just like, that's not really looking the way I want it to. Is I'm going to go back to here. We're just going to turn on this. And I just merged this up into a layer here. So that basically locks me in for the skin retouching and everything that I've already done, but I'm not going to go back and change that anyways.
Okay.
But here, what I'm going to do is I'm going into ACR and I'm not making this a smart object layer because I'm not doing anything too crazy, but I am just going to bring up, there it is. It's in the shadows. I'm bringing up the brightness in the dress a little bit because it's really pretty. I'm going to bring up some color noise reduction a little bit and a little bit of sharpening just to counteract. Because if you push your color noise or noise reduction, obviously things get a little bit buttery. So I always make sure that I push up the sharpening just to counteract it. But I know that by pulling up the shadows this much to get this red dress out, we're going to have some color noise to deal with. And color mixer, I don't really want to mess with the eyes or anything like that. So I might just leave that as is. Let's see, that's looking before and after. And what's happening in the rest of the image doesn't matter, so it's irrelevant. We'll just turn this all back on, turn this on, turn these on. And by the way, if I'm going too fast for anyone, if there's anybody in the chat here who wants to like, how did you do that again? Just ask. I'm more than happy to do this. But
yes,
if you're merging up into a layer, I always remember, at least on Windows anyways, because I was trying to remember the shortcut for forever. And it's alternative control is shifty because it's alt control shifty.
Alternative control is shifty. I love that. All right, everyone can remember that. Alternative control is shifty.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what the Mac version is. It would be command, alternative command. No.
Yeah, command, option, shift, E to merge.
Optional command is shifty.
Ooh, optional command is shifty. I like that. Now I have to look down at my keyboard. It's like, isn't it funny? Like I have to put my hands on the keyboard to know that
the muscle memory. Yeah, exactly. And then to pop into ACR is Control Shift A or Command Shift A. So for those of you, if you're, so here's the funny thing. When I was first teaching myself Photoshop, like way back in the day, I was just like, I didn't know, because I mean, you open up these programs and it's way worse now than it used to because we can do so much. Whereas like Photoshop 5 and 7, to be fair, was a lot easier to teach yourself on than what we're using now. But anyways, I was just like, oh my God, how do I learn what this program is? And so I went online to a totally legitimate legal site and got, I downloaded the shortcut list of the entire program, and I just memorized them because I was just like, what does this do? What does this do? And sometimes it made sense and sometimes it didn't. But that's how I taught myself, like early days Photoshop was.
That's awesome. I know. I remember seeing like the little keyboard covers that you could get too.
Right.
Those are awesome. Or I used to have like a little sheet hanging next to my computer when I was first getting started. Like, okay, what do I do here? Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. Super helpful though.
Yeah.
Super, super helpful. Let's see here. I don't want to lose the dress again, but actually we can just drop the highlights. Have a little bit of a hot spot on her face there. I can fix that after. It's like, I guess it's more here, but that flattens out too much. This is the push sliders stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that so much. Push sliders until it doesn't suck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, until it starts to make sense. Let's see here. Let's turn up our blues.
I really find that like sometimes so many fun things happen when you're willing to push the sliders to the extreme. Like I have seen a lot of people who will edit very timidly and will just be like, oh, I know I want a little bit of red, so I'm going to put a little bit of red. But
Right.
if you push it all the way, then all of a sudden like something totally cool and magical happens to your image. Yeah. And you start to be like, oh, if I did this and this, that's many times how ideas will come to me. I'm like, oh my God, wait, if I make this more blue, then this turns color. So I'll make this that color.
Exactly. 100%. Yeah, that's 100% the thing. Like, that's why when I'm doing like the hue adjustments, like I grab and I push it all the way to the sides because I'm like, where is this even affecting?
Yeah.
And I can't see it if I don't push it too far.
Exactly. And a good like learning technique too.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, like it's one thing if you have an art director sitting over your shoulder, breathing down your neck, you want to look like you know what you're doing. Yeah. But if you're just like doing your own personal work, like here, like I know the saturation of the oranges are right here. So I didn't do a really good job of like cleaning up the color, but also I can just drop the saturation and it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see here.
So I'm curious as you're working, curious about like client work that you do, if you're willing to share, like who you work with and what kind of stuff you do with them. Like your work is so unique and awesome. I'd love to hear more about that.
I mean, so the funny thing is every single client that I get, the email that they send me is, hey, every email, it's so weird. They all say, hey, we're looking for something different, whether it's like a big tech company or if it's like, you know, like a small indie band or whether it's like a record label band, whatever. They all come to me saying like, hey, I'm looking for something different and we don't know what that is yet, but we think you can help us find it. And so, I mean, like the genres that I work in are all across the board and every single year it's different. So some years I'll have like tons of commercial work. And then some years it'll be like, you know, people who just really love having their photo taken, who want to look like their favorite Halloween character.
Yeah.
And it's like, I kind of love that about it, that every year is different because I'm definitely the type of person that if things aren't changing for me a little bit, I start to like self-sabotage a little and I get bored. And that's like a very dangerous place for me.
Yep.
And I know that a lot of creative people are like that, where they just really need like that change, and it kind of helps us feel like a little bit more alive in what we're doing.
100%.
So yeah, that's a big part of it, is just, you know, yeah, it's so weird. Like I was talking to a friend of mine when I was first getting into this, you know, and just being like, how do I brand myself? Because I mean, when you're first starting, you're just like trying to figure it out. And to be fair, ever since then, I'm still just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Every year is
I hear that.
Right? Because
you mean every week.
Exactly. 100%. Like week to week, day to day, like it totally changes.
Yeah.
And there's like pros and cons to that. Like you got to be able to roll with that and make peace with it, which it took me a lot of years to try and make peace with that, where it like made sense, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it is all over the board. Like I've done work for like, I mean, my love a lot of the years is doing like big commercial stuff. I mean, there's something that's just like really fun about like, you know, being like the cog in the wheel, right? You know, where it's like, okay, like the artistic decisions that are being made here are being made by people above my pay grade. Yeah. So I am literally somebody here who just has to show up and be able to deliver what they ask. And that's really exciting sometimes. And then other times, like, you're just like, you're just working on other people's projects. And you're just like, I just want to work on my own stuff and work on my own thing, where it's like, you know, so yeah, I mean, yeah, I just, for myself, I always have to keep changing things up. So
yeah, I absolutely love the way you put that. And that's so true. Sometimes you just want to do the things that people are telling you to create, because you can, ooh, look at that, looks so good. I love that. Like when the camera roll hits, it's like, yes.
Yeah, it all ties together.
Yeah, like sometimes you can create something and you're just like, give me the idea, give me the concept, and I can make it come together. Yeah. And you're like, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to have to come up with a creative idea. Just tell me what to do. Whereas, and then other times you're like, oh yeah, I really want to like do this idea and then have this thing and bring it all together from your own inner being. And
exactly,
it's so great to have both. And you're so right. You have to have those both things in order to not become bored or stagnant in your work.
Yeah, exactly. That's definitely my opinion as well. So what I'm doing here quickly is I just created a levels layer because I realized that her eyes are getting a little bit flat. So I just want to bring them back, give them a little bit of life. A friend of mine works in a VFX house, and he's works on like the coolest jobs. He's working on Lord of the Rings right now, and I'm so jealous. Wow. And he's always like, he always tells me, he's like, always remember that the darkest thing in your image has to be the iris.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've heard that before too.
That's so good. And so I always try to remember that the darkest point in this is the iris itself. But let's see here.
Looking so good.
How are we looking? I mean, this is looking pretty good.
Yeah.
And it's nice and sharp. I mean, typically like what I'll do is, I mean, I have lost a little bit of texture here on her forehead, right here. So I might, if we have time, which I think we do, I think I'm going to fix that quickly. So I'm going to quickly do frequency separation here. Noise, medium. Because on the off chance this ever prints, it has to look right.
Yeah, I can't have that one spot being blurry.
Right? Or just flat.
Do you sell prints of your work?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do a lot of licensing as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Come on.
It was actually another question I was going to ask you, because of all of the atmosphere that you were shooting and bringing in. Do you ever sell any atmosphere packs for people to buy?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
cool.
I have them through my website, but I wasn't going to mention it because you guys have a stock, and I was like,
hey, self promotion is good too.
Yeah, no, I do have a stock site on my website, so yeah.
Amazing, yeah.
Everyone
go check that out.
Yeah, you'll just see it up in the. We are on the wrong layer. You'll see it up in the. There's like a buy a stock thing on my website, assets. And it just takes you to a Gumroad shop.
Cool.
Let's see here. I don't need 100% of that texture, but we do need a little bit more of it. So it does mean I'm going to lose that one line, which is a bummer because I like that line. So, but maybe I can bring some of that back up.
Sam asked if you advertise your work for licensings towards specific clients and customers.
I mean, so that goes back to the how do I market myself question, which is like every year I'm like, oh God, what now? So, I mean, every year it changes. I should market it more specifically, but I just don't. I mean, the work shows up when it shows up kind of thing, which is a little bit weird, but
yeah, I feel that.
Yeah. But I mean, I in the past I did lots of book covers, and then book covers got quiet for a few years, and then they're starting to pick up again. And I mean, I have some stuff listed through different agencies and so on and so forth, but you know, lots of band cover artwork and then commercial artwork as well. Like my favorite thing is like for trade shows, licensing for big trade shows. Yeah. Which is where like these have to be perfect because they're printing them big. And the last thing they want is to look bad in front of, you know, potential clients and everything else. So, but yeah, I think this is looking pretty good.
Yeah, I love it.
All
it's
things
amazing. Okay, so question, did she
Yes.
come in with those fingernails or did you put them on her?
No, I put them on her.
Oh, I was
And
like,
she was-
oh, I hope she has them in real life.
No, she was instantly useless. Just like, there. Like trying to adjust anything or like trying to put clothes on is just like this.
Yep.
Like, how do people do this? I don't understand.
I know. I love having long nails, but it's always so difficult to do anything. Like right now they're short and it's like you can't do anything, but they look so cool.
They look so cool, but yeah, no, there's no chance.
Nope.
I can't put any of that stuff on.
Like trying to type, it's so hard.
Oh my God. Yeah. Or just do anything. Like,
Yeah.
just putting my boots on. I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think like this is looking pretty good, all things considered. So I'll just walk you through quickly like what we did here. And how much time do we have left anyways, lady?
We have like 45 minutes.
Perfect. Awesome. So
Yeah.
we can do the second one. Sweet.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll just walk you guys through then quickly like what we did here. I'm gonna disable you. Yeah, so we did the content aware crop, right? So if you hit the C on your keyboard, which is crop, I turned off delete crop pixels and I turned on content aware. If you turn on delete crop pixels, it'll make your files smaller because it's not saving all of the information outside of the image itself. But I like to change my mind a lot. And, you know, so anyways, turn off delete crop pixels. I turned on content aware and just moved her more towards the center because I'm incapable of photographing anybody perfectly center without a tripod. And then from here, we did the content aware. So we take the marquee tool and we just like highlight these here, and then we go edit and then content aware fill. And then we tell the math and wizardry inside the Photoshop to figure out where it should sample from. And content aware fill is getting really good these days, which is awesome. Then we did a frequency separation, which is we separate the low texture from the high. So from frequency separation, the fastest version possible is we create a layer without any texture in it. And then we create a layer with only the texture in it so we can manipulate color and texture independently of each other, which is a really, really, really powerful tool for lots of things beyond just flattening out faces, which is typically what frequency separation gets all of its bad juju from, because people use it way too heavily on face retouching. So this was like what her face looked like before, and then this is what it looked like afterwards. So I try to keep it pretty gentle. And then obviously we used it to fill in the hair here because I didn't want to mask that.
Yeah.
Then we created the red eye layer, and remember we stamped in nice and close, and we got rid of the iris itself and the eye, or at least the dark line, because it makes everything look a little more human. So one of them is on a multiply layer, and I just sampled red and just painted the red in. And then I did a second one on a soft light layer. And so that gives it that brighter color because multiply makes it darker. And then we put a soft light layer over top and it'll brighten it up. And the order here like actually matters. So if we put the soft light underneath the red eyes, I'll show you here. So soft light is underneath now and they get a little bit darker, but if we put soft light on top, they get just a tiny little bit brighter. And so that's like the layer when you're working with blending modes, the order really, really matters. And then from here, we just did the color correction on the one ear tip because it was the wrong color. We come back to this where we brightened up the bottom of the dress, but we'll just say that we did that now because you guys were here the whole time. Then we went into BorisFX and created the perfect moon.
Yes.
So for your next year when you're doing moons.
I know.
Same thing with stars, like they do stars as well. I was it's awesome. Like they do so much. It's a really, really, really great plugin.
I'm so excited.
Then we pulled over this image here and I created a curves to make it a little bit darker, and then we masked out the white sky. That's the easiest way to actually photograph environments. If you're photographing your own stuff, is blow out the highlights because you're just going to get rid of it anyways. So,
yeah.
And then from there, I started adding in the atmospheric stuff. So this is just on a color dodge layer, big round soft brush. And then I also added noise to it because one thing that happens with digital painting and compositing is that if you don't add noise, it kind of flattens out the image a little bit. So by adding in a noise layer, even when it's on a blending mode, it just kind of, I find, at least when it comes to printing anyways, less of that flattening happens. Then we did overlay highlights and dodge highlights, and I forgot to add noise to these two layers, but I typically do add just like a very small amount. So I go filter, noise, and then add noise. And then I make sure that I usually, at least for my camera sensor, and this will change sensor to sensor and like what ISO you shot it at, etc. But for mine, I usually shoot at ISO 200, which is ironic because I have a Canon, it goes to 100. But because most of my background plates, I shoot around 200 ISO if I can get it, then I shoot my people in the studio at 200 ISO. And then the amount is at 2, and I make sure it's on Gaussian and monochromatic, because if it's not on monochromatic, you can get all this color noise problem, which, I mean, some images it looks really good, but for these ones, at least anyways, it's not going to work. And then I added in my favorite atmospheric packs, which of course is the sky that I just color graded really quickly in ACR and just like I added in more blue and green. And then I just duplicated that a few times because it makes it a little bit more punchy. Yes. And the top one here, I let it go over the entire image. So I allow the colors to, kind of go over top of her as well. And then the snow layer, which is this guy here. And again, I photographed that one and I put it on a screen blending mode and I put it behind her. And if I was thinking, which I forgot, normally I pull a little bit of those like atmospheric-y blips in front of her a little bit, but I forgot. But instead I put smoke.
Yeah, I think that looks great.
I typically like to have my atmospheric elements like wrapping around the subject, typically not covering too much of the face, but I do like to have it swirling around. But I forgot.
Yeah. That's okay.
And then the soft light layer, and I added a little bit of noise again. And then hue saturation, which did something. And then the biggest adjustments obviously come from Adobe Camera Raw. So we merge everything up with the alternative control is Shifty, or optional command is Shifty. And then, went into the preset layers that I had here. So actually, if we go back into this, I can just, okay. Oh my God, what just happened? Not you. Thank you. So if I go back into ACR, so the nice thing about using a smart object is when we go back into ACR, typically these adjustments happen, they stay, but apparently they're not today. Updates.
That's weird. Maybe double click on that.
Yeah. Right. I'm just like, nope. Cancel.
What?
We're done.
That's super strange.
Photoshop making a liar of me. This is what happens when you update. Normally, when you make a smart object layer, all of your information stays, but apparently it doesn't today. And I guess that's just the day that we're having. So whatever.
I know.
But anyways, when you make your
glitchy
Windows. So normally in a smart object layer, all of your adjustments are still here. And for some reason they're not today. But what you can do if you like the color grading that you did, which is nice, you go here and then you just hit these little 3 dots and you go save settings. And then from there, pull this over onto this other monitor here. You can select which parts of your color grading that you like, that you want to save. So obviously crop, spot removal, and masking, like none of that makes any sense. Also, we're working in Photoshop, so why would we do it here? But all of these other effects you can hit that you like, you just go save. And then this is where like all of my presets are. And so I just like give it a number and a name. And then I hit save and then it shows up here. So in this case here, the Varden one is right there. So obviously putting it on twice looks like garbage.
Yeah. But that's
awesome. The cool thing. That's the cool thing that I love about color grading with ACR is that like, if you're working in a PSD and you're working with actions and whatever else, you're copying over layers or rerunning the action or whatever, but ACR I find is just like a lot faster. And I can just do a lot of things all at once. And typically all that information is in there, but it's not today. So then I just created a levels layer and just brought down some of the shadows around the eyes just to, kind of draw the viewer into that part of her face. And then I had accidentally blown out a little bit here on her forehead. So I just did another frequency separation layer and quickly filled that back in with some texture. And then a curves layer. I was just kind of like looking at the colors and it was looking a little too monochromatic for me. So I went into the green layer and I just added a little bit of magenta into it. And that is basically how we got this image here. short and sweet.
I love it. It's so cool. And can we take a look at what you created today versus last night? See how close we
Yeah,
are?
100%. Different. It's always different.
Very different. It's so cool. I always love to see that because mine are the complete same way. If I recreate it, it's totally different. And like these both have such different and unique feelings and work on their own in their own way. So cool.
Oh, I think I know what I'm missing on this that I didn't do, that I did do on this one now that I'm looking at them back and forth. So the one thing that I will also do with this, if I really want to create like a nice little bit of separation between the subject and the background is, I'm going to go down here. I'm going to select mask, put the mask on, and I'm going to go filter, blur, box blur. I like box blur more than Gaussian blur because I can always tell what Gaussian blur looks like. But box blur is really strong today. It's not normally quite that strong. Although filter, what we can do, even if it is strong, because if you photograph somebody on location, even with like a higher aperture, oh yeah, Windows is pitching a fit today. I don't know what happened there. So if you photograph somebody in real life with a higher aperture, if it's a compressed lens, the subject, like the stuff behind them is always going to be like drastically softer. So we are going to try that again. And this is not the amount of blur that it is. There it is. So here we can see the separation between the two, and let's go with 3 pixels. There we go. That's looking more realistic.
Yeah.
And so now from there to there, we now have this like nice little bit of separation between the two. And so it just creates that digital space. I mean, that's why when we're photographing on location, we photograph typically with a lower aperture so that they like, there's this nice soft buttery background. But in here, I don't really like, the background is part of telling the story. So I don't want to just like blur it into mush because it doesn't really look very good.
Yeah.
But it should be softer, right? And so some people, what they'll do is they'll just say like, oh, well, you know, I just blur it as I do. But I often will wait, at least with images like this, I'll wait until I'm finished to see how much I want to blur this. And also our moon here, we can probably blur that a little bit too.
Oh yeah, so I'm just gonna be softer.
I'm going to duplicate that, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my mask from the moon. Burp. I'm going to take you and delete layer mask. There we go. And I'm going to blur that a little bit more. There we go. So I just hit box blur again, which also you could just go Alt Control F. But so from there to there, and it's just like a little bit softer.
Cool.
And
that's so good.
Yeah, I think I'm stoked with that for like a live edit. You know, it's like doing all right.
Love it. It's awesome.
It's so funny the differences though.
I know. Isn't that amazing? It's so weird how that happens. You can do the exact same thing and it looks totally different.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna go save as, and we're gonna save this as, this is a 3 gig file. So we're gonna save this as a large format PSB. Save. And so here's the thing for those of you who use different plugins. I don't use maximize compatibility because I don't use Lightroom. But if you use Lightroom, maximize compatibility, leave it turned on, but I don't, so I turn it off. And what that does, it just makes for a smaller PSB file. And when you're already making big files, you know, on one hand, sure, what's a little bit more space, but on the other hand, like, it's a lot.
Definitely.
So let's take this down to here. We're gonna put this into a group and turn this off. So go ahead.
Real quick, Becca was asking about going over frequency layers. And I know you had said that that's like a whole thing. Do you have any place of recommending where people can learn more about that? Just like YouTube? Do you have any videos you like or?
I mean, so I did a video on Creative Live called Introduction to Fantasy Compositing, where I kind of go over like how I retouch skin and frequency separation and dodge and burning. How I do that normally is in there. Okay. So if you have a Creative Live Creators Pass, then that's like a really cheap way to learn that. But I mean, there's so many different ways to do frequency separation. That's just how I do it. I mean, there's a guy named Earth Oliver and Steph McCullough, and they have like really intense, like, I mean, they're agency retouchers, or I mean, one of them, I think he's retired now, but you know, they they're really good at that from a very like technical, like left brain side.
Yeah.
But those are two names, you know, that are worth Googling as well, Earth Oliver and Steph McCullough.
Okay.
Might be pronouncing that wrong, but they did some stuff with ProDU that definitely go over like advanced texture cleanup and stuff like that. So that's like really intense, super deep, whereas mine's a little bit more surface level.
Cool.
Yeah. Let me see here. How are we doing on time?
We are good. We have a little bit of time left. So
okay. How much is a little bit? Speaking literal.
we have a little bit of time. We have like 30 minutes.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I can definitely do this in 30 minutes. Okay, so this is an image that I got off Adobe stock because I was like, well, I should probably like, you know, use some of these because they're actually pretty awesome. So I'm gonna pull this over here, and so I don't typically like to stretch these very much because it distorts the pixels and like, you know, the shape and everything gets wonky, right? Like it looks stretched.
Yeah.
So I don't typically like to do that too much. So what I'll do here is I'm going to grab my marquee tool and I'm just going to do the content aware fill, and it's not going to do a great job, but there's a bunch of different ways that we can make this work. So we're going to say sample this whole thing, and my poor computer is just going to be like, why do you do this to us? So this is like if you're first getting into compositing and you're like kind of intimidated by it or whatever. So that looks like that, which is like, it's not great, but whatever. So we have these two layers here, right? So on and off. So I'm going to merge this down by hitting Control E or Command E if you're a Mac user. And I'm going to grab this, copy, paste. So Control C, Control Shift V. I'm going to transform it. I'm going to flip it horizontal. I'm going to put it over here. But so now what we're going to see though, is we're going to see like all these like repeating patterns, and it's starting to look like a Rorschach test. So I'm going to pick darker color. So now we're getting like, because if we put this just onto normal, like I said, it looks a little Rorschach-y, but if we go darker color, then it's only pulling over like certain parts of the whole image itself. And then I'm just going to grab my brush tool, make sure I'm not on a mixer brush, which happens all the time. So if you want the fastest shortcut to like switching through your tools is Shift. So B is just Shift B. Definitely learn your keyboard shortcuts. Makes everything better. But yeah, so now like we have some similar patterns like here and here, but not too bad.
Yeah, you honestly would never even notice.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then I just merge that down again. I'm just going to grab like this and just kind of like mangle this a little bit. That's looking pretty good. Basically just looking for like the big obvious heavy hitters. Like this looks different enough from here, so it could actually be like a tapestry, but you know, if you flip them too much, it looks a little bit weird. So from here, I'm just going to change the blending mode. Let's try overlay. And here, I'm going to take up my mask again. So I hit Control, click, and then I'm just going to hit my mask. And so now what we have already, like, you know, if you have photographed something on like a gray piece of paper or a white or whatever, or a blue or whatever, and you just want to like add a little bit of texture to the space. This is like, you know, like Compositing 101 kind of like entry level stuff, but also it's like super satisfying when I just want to make this like just a little bit more than what it is.
Yeah.
So then I run box blur on it just to have like that little bit of distance. And like really, really quickly and simply, I mean, obviously we would retouch the skin and add the red eyes and like do the ears and everything else, right? But you know, it just doesn't take very long to really make, you know, simple images look a lot more interesting with just using blending modes.
Totally.
The one thing that I always tell people about though is if you're doing this, make sure that your any of your horizontal lines or whatever aren't going through, because you can be a lot more lazy with the masking on these. Always make sure that you're watching out what's going on with like lines going through hair and everything else, because it just
it
looks bad.
Yeah, that's such a good tip.
Yeah. So here's the hue saturation. I'm clipping these. So Alt click will clip it. So what this does is it's only going to affect, you know, this layer. And because this is a blending mode, it is technically affecting the layer on top, but not really. Only because, of course, it's a blending mode, and so it is somewhat semi-transparent. Let's go yellows. Make her nice and pale. Reds, a little bit. I don't want to lose too much of that dress. And then, yeah, so like, I mean, if we really wanted to kind of have a little bit more fun with this, we can pull in, where is it? We can pull in this guy for like some atmospheric stuff, just to like reuse some of the same techniques, but slightly differently. I'm gonna make sure that's unclipped. So Alt click again, or Option click. And then soft light blending mode. And then I will pull up this mask here, but I don't want it to completely, like I don't want it completely gone. So what I'll do is I'll just grab my bucket tool, and I'm just gonna pick a gray because masking works on a gray scale, and make sure I'm selected on the mask, click. And so now our mask here is like that.
I didn't even know you could do that. Huh.
Well, because
you learn something every day.
Because masking is a grayscale thing, right?
Yeah.
So like it works, you know, you don't have to necessarily like hand paint it all in if you actually know exactly where you want everything to go.
Right.
And so like, let's say I like how much is on the bottom of, or on her face, but I want a little bit more. On the bottom, I just grab my white and I'll just pull this over just a little bit. And it's like, it's a very subtle difference.
Yeah.
But from there to there. And I'm making sure that, you know, when I'm pulling over this image here, if I put this here onto normal, that I put the highlights where the highlights are on the image itself. I'm not, you know, I'm making sure that the darker, more textury stuff is on the bottom. So
yeah.
And we can do overlay or soft light. Either one actually can work in this case, but I think soft light will be nicer because overlay adds a little bit more contrast than I maybe don't want.
Yeah, that looks so cool. I love the effect that that's giving it.
It just kind of gives it this like soft, ethereal-y kind of thing.
Yeah.
And let's not do this at the end this time. We'll invert that.
Douglas asked, how are you able to add filters on an empty layer? I'm not sure. Where did you do that?
Yeah. So I did that with the BorisFX stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I'll show you exactly how I did that for sure. I'm just going to quickly finish off these eyeballs here. There we go. The makeup artist who did the makeup on this is probably like, stop making her eyes so dark.
I know.
Sorry. I'm sorry. And she did such a good job too. Okay, so how do we do that on an image itself? Okay, so that is a tiny bit dark, but not too bad. Okay, so I just create a, I just did the thing again. So talk about habits. So blank layer, and then grab your bucket tool, and then make a black layer. And then from here we go filter, and then in this case, BorisFX. And for kicks and grins, let's add some stars instead of a moon. Even though stars won't really make sense, but whatever.
Stars always make sense.
But yeah, these are all the different types of moons you can get. Like you can get like an eclipse moon.
Wow, that's
like
sweet.
The moon with the ring, like the surface.
Whoa.
Moonstone. And then there's all the like parameters underneath here that you can change to. But we're gonna go to night sky. And this is just like the default one, but there's actually like actual, like, you know, the constellation Gemini, the constellation Orion, Pegasus, you know, the North Pole, Hercules, like all these things. It's crazy. Even like there's a deep space filter as well. And then from here, parameters, you can go longitude, latitude, star size, brightness. Like it's super impressive. Time of year, like what year, month, day, hour, minute. Like it's very well thought out. And then like the glare amount do you want, like how much of this haziness are you looking for, streaks, lengths? It's bananas.
That is so cool. I love that they have all of that and that it works
It's
so
real impressive.
yeah. Oh, so cool.
But yeah, so I'm just gonna pick like default here because it's just the easiest. And this is like, I mean, BorisFX have a whole like YouTube channel of like free stuff you can watch. So
Okay,
this
cool.
is also just as complicated as Photoshop if you really want to get into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
It seems like there could be so many different things that you could do.
It's a compositor's like special place. I mean, they even have like comets and laser beams and everything else.
Love it.
But yeah, so this is like the night sky because we put it on a black layer, and then I can put this onto a screen blending mode, or the other thing we can do is obviously the blend if filters, right? So double click and underlying layer, burp, burp, burp. So we can kind of pull it through this way if we wanted to, but obviously screen is like the fastest because reasons. Screen just gets rid of all the black stuff in your image. So that's definitely the fastest way. And
I
so
love screen. Here, definitely my favorite blending mode.
Yeah, big fan. Super big fan. And I'm like super excited about like the blending, like the auto mask stuff in Photoshop now, because like this, I used to do this by hand and it would take me like a couple hours. So glad we don't have to do that anymore.
What a game changer.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so on the topic of like keeping stars, like let's just roll with this. Let's put some stars in the foreground here. She can be like keeper of the stars or something like that. And filter, blur, box blur, probably 1 is enough. Just so they're like not quite as sharp.
Yeah.
I can probably get rid of like some of those, but I don't know. I'm into it. Whatever. We already made like the big piece. So from here, I'm just gonna like merge it up. Make this a smart object layer. And like I said, normally it makes sense. But it's a live stream, so nothing will.
Yep. Douglas asked, what exactly has the gray color from the bucket achieved on the mask? It's just lightening it a little, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, because so I'll just hop out of here. So if we turn this off, poor computer's just like, stop it. Probably be faster if I close these. I'm just gonna give us a second for my computer to quit pitching a fit.
Does yours get super loud? Mine always like gets so loud when
it used to. I actually bought I bought a because I have a laptop, I bought a fan system, like a 3 fan thing off Amazon, and I turned that on and like everything runs better now.
I should do that
right now.
Yeah, mine's like
oh yeah, it's super yeah, because you have a laptop.
Yeah, luckily I just got a new one, but my other one that I still use for stuff, the fans are terrible.
Yeah, so these things are like $30 on Amazon, just like, or you know, wherever you want to get them from, but they're just these little three fan things, and they have a USB power thing.
Oh, sweet.
And it's super quiet, and then the fan that runs in your laptop that's normally like screaming doesn't have to work.
Okay.
Everything's freezing for some reason though. This is very weird. Because I mean, not for some reason, it's because this is a live stream, and I'm just gonna give us a second. We will come back to the gray comment. Is there any other question while my computer figures itself out?
Yeah, let us know if you have any other questions here while the computer takes a little breather.
Yeah, poor thing. Everyone's like, always just like, how many computers do you go through? And I'm like, I burned through one in about 2 years.
Yeah.
Oh my God, really? Yeah. Okay, so if we look at our mask here, right? So that's what this looks like now. If I take my bucket tool and I make this mask black, then what this is going to do, and I'm going to put this onto a different blending mode. So like that. So it's a little bit more obvious and easier to see. Come on, I believe in you. Come on, computer. And I'm definitely coming up to the 2-year mark on this thing. Okay, so So with our mask right now, our mask is gray. So if I make this black, so see here how it's like basically all of the effect is completely removed. And if I make it white, oops, cancel, then the effect goes over her entire body. So if we go undo that, actually this horizontal line here is a little bit janky, but whatever. We didn't notice it in the other image. But if we don't want, so let's say we want this to be less, but we don't necessarily want it to completely go away. There's two ways you can do that. One of them is using a brush and using a low flow or a low opacity, right? Which is going up into here and deciding to go like, okay, we're gonna do like a low flow and go to our brush here. And then we would just like paint this out, right? So see how we're getting our like little halo here. And then so, but that's like, you know, and then if we do this the opposite and we want like her face just to slowly go more gray, then we can do this with a brush. But alternatively, we can also just use a shade of gray because that's how this works. So we can, because when we paint with a little bit of white and we look here at our mask has gone gray, right? But we can also just pick a shade of gray and just kind of like guesstimate roughly where we want it to be. Hit the paint bucket tool and click it. And so we can basically just like pick where on this we want it to go if we have a good mask already. And if we don't, then obviously this all gets complicated. But
right.
Does that make sense? Is that kind of like
mud? Yes, no, I think that's a great description of it and really cool to do it that way. I usually always paint everything back in like with a low flow as you were showing. And I never thought to use the bucket tool to change it to gray. So
if you have a good mask, yeah, it totally works.
Yeah. Hopefully that helps Douglas and clears up any confusion on that.
Yeah. So I just like picking a pre-made one that I've made in the past. Obviously, so here's the other thing. So not all color grades work on every image. So in this case here, the one that we made earlier, it doesn't work on this type of image, which is why I have so many of them made.
Yes.
But this one here, this is kind of nice. That one's cool. But obviously, like, there's some things about it that I don't like because it's a little bit too here, and cool it a little bit more here. I'm gonna increase the vibrance and keep the saturation a little bit low, because if I push up the saturation, we get this like weird, it just affects the colors a little bit differently. So I tend to push vibrance one direction, saturation the other. I just kind of like how it looks.
Yeah, I wonder why that is. I do that too.
Yeah, there's like some math that's going on in the back end that like we don't know what it is, but something's happening. Yeah, exactly. Let's see here, like this color grading. Not really digging that. How about you?
I like it in the like really bluish look, but you know, I'm biased. I love
you blue. Do like your blues.
Blue and pink, baby, bring it on.
That's super funny. Yeah, I mostly like, I love playing in greens normally, but I'm trying to like get away from that for this image because I feel like it'll look better.
Yeah, that's funny because I'm like allergic to greens. I'm like, no greens, and you will never see green in my work. And if I do, it's because I'm like really trying to push myself.
Hilarious. Yeah, well, I mean, that's a funny thing because that's like, that also is how I would like teach myself color grading, is I would pick colors that I was really bad at and I would just make bad artwork until it finally started to make sense.
Yeah, that's cool.
Let's see here.
Yeah, I've been trying to like draw a lot more with green and kind of use more natural nature tones, and yet even still, I'm like, oh, I like this kind of bluish green. Like, stop.
Yeah, that's not why we're here.
I know.
The other thing that these are kind of cool, these like color lookup tables. So we go to these like little half circle here and color lookup. And these are just like pre-made
Yes.
LUTs you can get from Adobe that they just come with the program, and actually they're pretty neat. What if we did this? Nope, that looks terrible. I was like, maybe? No, mistakes were made.
I know.
But what if like that? I also tend to like flatter images a little bit. I'm not very good with like the detailed high contrast stuff, but that brings out just like a little bit down here in the bottom of her dress.
I always feel like I start editing something in one direction and then I'll put like a LUT on it or preset or something. And then it's like, oh, well, I also like that too. And then I end up doing like 2 or 3 versions, you know?
Right? Yeah, exactly. And you're just like 1, 2, 3, like, oh God, which one is it? And you just save all 3 and come back to it later.
Yeah, exactly. And then you post and you're like, swipe to see the other versions. Which one do you like best?
Yeah, exactly. And then it's usually like evenly split. So basically there is no wrong answer. But every now and then, everyone's like one color grade and nobody likes the other one. You're just like,
I know. And it's like the other one's what you liked, you know?
It's 100% it.
Classic.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, that makes sense. That hurts a little, but it makes sense. But yeah, so that's basically like, this is like a really fast way to do, like, if you're just getting into compositing or you've shot something against like a boring background, to just like, make merp, you know, from this to this. And you know, realistically, like especially once you get good at this and you're not like talking your whole way through, like you can do this in like 10-15 minutes. Like, you know, mine maybe without the skin retouching, but like, you know, once you've done all the cleanup and you've got your mask figured out and everything, because not all masks are as easy as this. I mean, I intentionally, because she has light hair, photographed her against a darker background so the masking would be easier. Because there's like 2 ways to photograph in my mind anyways. There's photographing for the environment luminance, and then there's photographing for easy masking. And they're not always, sometimes your environment luminance, like I did these photographs of these women in these white dresses on a white background because I knew I was going to put them into a winter scene, but like the auto selection didn't even see it. Like I had to go in and like manually hand paint out every single feather on the mask, and it took me like 3 hours. But I didn't want to correct for, like, if I photographed them on black, a white dress on a black background, and then putting them into a white environment, the environment luminance makes no sense whatsoever, and the light absorption into the ground and how it pulls the saturation and colors out of the dress, it just doesn't work. And I was just like, I'll just do the masking then, because you can color correct it, but I hate doing it. I'd rather mask. But
that is such a great pro compositing tip, because I think so many times people don't think about that kind of stuff, and they don't think about like what the atmosphere is going to be in the final picture, and then how you photograph that changes it.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, well, like you're going to be fixing one or the other. You're either going to be doing a more challenging mask, and thank God the auto selections are getting better and better and better. But if you're photographing light hair and you're going to have it like wisping like it is in this image, photographing it on a darker background is going to make the auto selection so much faster and so much easier. And you're going to have a lot less like, putzing around to try and fix it to have to do.
Absolutely.
But if I wanted to put her into a winter environment, photographing her on this type of a background would have sucked, because basically what you get, even with like a really good mask, we still have like this little bit of haloing here, this little bit of softness, right? And if you're putting them into if I was putting her into a bright background, you'd see it, and then you gotta fix it. And like, there's some ways that are easier than others to fix that stuff. And choose your battles wisely.
Yes. I could not agree more.
But so these are our 2 images that we made today, like as quick as humanly possible.
Amazing. Looks so good. Does anyone have any other questions? We have like 5 minutes left.
5 minutes is easy.
Yeah.
I mean, I can walk through this. If nobody has questions, I can just walk through the different color changes here. But I mean,
maybe let's take a look at the one that you did last night and kind of see if there was any differences here.
Yeah, I don't normally edit ahead of time, but I knew today I was just like, it's gonna be faster. But so same thing here. We did the frequency separation, and then the fixing of the hair. And the hair fix here actually is a little bit nicer than what I did today, obviously, because that's what happens when you do this stuff. live.
Yes.
So this is like the difference of like sitting in your head listening to heavy metal and talking. So here we have like the subtle changes, right? So this is what I think makes like, you know, believable hair fill in more realistic, is like the shifting and like the different unevenness in the tones, right? Whereas here it's like a little bit faster and it's like a little bit flatter, and there's like a little bit of errors here along the shoulder as well, but here there's less of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then so from there we fixed the ear color and the eyes as well, and so we can see like slightly how different the ears and eyes are going to look here today. So this is like a little bit more saturated and this is a little bit more muted.
Oh yeah.
Right. Which I feel like speaks to how you're feeling at the time of day that you're working on the thing.
100%. Yes.
You know, that's just kind of like how it goes sometimes. And then so from here I added in the moon, and that looks a little bit different than the one that we did today because this is a little bit smaller, whereas in this case here I made it a little bit bigger, which the moon is somewhere. Oh my God, where did I put it? Group.
Layer 12, layer 13, layer 14.
100%. Let's go
Story
back
of my
into
life.
here. Yeah. Nerp. Let's get rid of you and get rid of you. Yeah. Okay. So here, obviously, I made the moon a little bit bigger and here a little bit smaller. Dealer's choice on which one you prefer more. See here, zoom back down, and then yeah, I added in the highlights. And then this one here, what I did was I added a little bit of a glow to the highlight, which I don't always do, but I felt like, you know, it makes like for a slightly more cinematic-y kind of softer feel to it. And it's not normally my thing, but I guess last night I was in the mood. And zoom you down, there we go. And yeah, so this is obviously less and this one is more. So I always think it's like a good practice when you are working on stuff to edit the same thing twice and just see how it looks different. Like, what did you do differently?
So true.
Yeah.
Douglas asked, does compositing require keeping the skin tones okay? I guess.
Oh, you can do whatever you want. I mean, it's compositing. So like there are times when keeping the skin tone realistic matters, but in this case here, like she's literally an undead character. If I had like soft, alive flesh tones, it wouldn't make sense at all.
Right.
But I mean, at the end of the day, it's what kind of story and message are you trying to tell, quote unquote, with the artwork? And if you're looking for realism, advertising, compositing, yeah, that skin tone better be like on point, because people aren't going to license your work if it isn't. But for fantasy artwork, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Anybody who says otherwise is a gatekeeping jerk.
I totally agree with that. I feel like doing whatever you want when it's your artwork is the key ingredient to long-term happiness and success, because if you're doing it for any other reason, to keep things accurate or to make it look a certain way or to make money or whatever, and not because it's like what you want, you're gonna burn out. I've dealt with that many times.
yeah, you'll super burn out. I mean, that's why, like, I always tell people I make myself my own client. So people say like, oh, what's your percentage of paid work versus personal? And I'm up to like 40% personal work now.
Wow.
And I mean, I'm working on an art book right now too, so it is more than usual, and I'm hoping to launch the Kickstarter in August. But I mean, I know that this is a creative career, and if I don't feed me, I can't deliver to my clients. If I can't keep this little blob of gray matter happy, then I can't deliver to anybody else, and then I'm just shooting myself in the foot. So like you gotta look after you. You have to look after you. Yeah, so in this case here, I added in that foreground smoke stuff later. I didn't add them in ahead of time. I added it after. And then I added a clipping mask to it to make it a little more blue, some curves, and some color balance. And so here, since I've done today, I'm looking at her eyes and I'm going, oh, her eyes are a little bit flat. So here, what I would probably do is just go in and do that levels again. And you can do it with curves too. Again, like this is another one of those like everyone has an opinion on which way is the right way to do it.
Yeah, just like a subtle little touch there too really helps.
Yeah, exactly. And just like bring in those eyeballs again.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, we are pretty much out of time here, but
Yay,
Renee, this was awesome. Yeah, we did it. Thank you so much. Like your whole process is really impressive. And I learned a lot today. I hope everyone watching learned a lot today. Be sure to come back and see us tomorrow. We will be back at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time for part 2 of, I know, we'll be back for part 2 of photo compositing. And be sure to stick around for this week's creative encore of the Illustrator Creative Challenge with Julia Vaca. Following the Creative Challenge is RK from Simmer Studios for a graphic design live stream where you can learn how to take your brand from start to finish. So we will see you all tomorrow for day 2. Thank you for joining us today and have a great rest of your day. Bye, everyone.
Bye.